If you've lost weight and gained it back, you had a strategy problem. Chances are you did not have a lack of effort. You didn't have a lack of intention. It was simply that the vehicle or the mechanism that you were using wasn't one that you could actually stick to and be consistent with for the long haul. And in this video today, I want to break down the best way to sustainably lose weight while building muscle. It's going to be a simple 3-step plan to get the fat off for good while adding muscle and doing it without burning out, losing all your progress, without fasting, keto, or some other crash diets, and without spending 2 hours a day in the gym, because I know I certainly don't have time for that, and I'm sure you don't either. Now, before I get into the actual content of the video, I want to make sure you know why it is that you can trust me. So if you're not familiar with me, my name is Joey Yochheim. I'm the co-owner of defaultkings.com. We're an online fitness coaching company. Since 2019, we have worked with over 700 men and helped them lose anywhere from 10 to 188 pounds, and most importantly, do it in a way that's sustainable for the long haul. Right. So when it comes to this subject, I feel more than qualified to talk you guys through this and hopefully provide you some pointers. Now, of course, if you enjoy the video, do all the YouTube-y stuff, like, comment, subscribe, send it to a friend that could use it. All right. Now, let's get into the content. So first things first, we need to actually delineate out between weight loss and fat loss, because they're technically two different things. Now, people use them interchangeably. I will be using them generally interchangeably in this video, and I will tell you why I can do that. But let's first just actually understand what these each individually are. So weight loss is total body mass reduction, right? Decreasing your total body mass. Your total mass includes your fat mass, your muscle mass, your bone mass, your organ mass, your fluid mass. All of these things is weight. Weight is it's comprised of all of the factors that contribute to the number that you see on the scale. So weight loss is completely reducing the total mass, right? The total mass. Fat loss is just adipose tissue reduction. It's just the fat mass loss, right? So technically, you can lose weight without losing fat, right? And technically, you can lose fat without losing weight, right? Because they're not the same thing. However, I'm going to be using them interchangeably, and in certain contexts, especially the context today, you can get away with it, because unless you have immediate access to fancy equipment, and I'm not talking about junky at-home body fat scales that you got for $30 on Amazon. I'm talking about the high-tech DEXA scans, bod pods, etc. Unless you have immediate access to those, it's very difficult to get accurate data on whether or not you lost weight or fat. But inside of this system that I'm going to share with you today, we can reasonably assume that if you're losing weight, it's fat that you're losing. So when I say losing weight or losing fat in this video, I'm using them interchangeably, because if you are resistance training and if you are in or using a high protein diet, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit here, it's safe to say that you are retaining muscle. And in most cases, if you're new to high protein and you are new to resistance training, you will likely be actually experiencing muscle building, even though you're in a calorie deficit and dropping weight/fat. All right. So in this context, that's why I'm getting away with using them interchangeably. Now, step one, you have to get a scale and you have to weigh yourself daily. Now, any digital scale on Amazon that just tracks body weight will do. Again, I already said it once, I'm not a fan of the smart scales that calculate your body fat percentage, because realistically, them sending little electrodes up your feet with your $30 scale that you got on Amazon is probably not going to be an accurate reading. Right? Anything that just tracks your weight and is digital will do great. Now, the number on the scale is the ultimate source of truth. I talk to so many people that swear up and down they're eating healthy, or they're not eating that much, or they're in a calorie deficit, but they're not losing weight. Right? And the reality is, if you're actually in a deficit, you will lose weight. If you are in an excess, you will gain weight. If you are at equilibrium, you will maintain weight. So the number on the scale is the ultimate source of truth. It doesn't matter how much you think you're eating. It doesn't matter if you think you're in a deficit. It doesn't matter if you think you eat healthy. Are you losing weight, yes or no? And if the answer is no, then you're not. And that's why we have to actually get a scale first things first, and weigh yourself daily. I've never met somebody who is overweight who for years and years and years and decades has weighed themselves every single day. Right? It's just so unlikely that if you saw that number continuing to go up over time, that you wouldn't correct your behavior and fix it. So it's very difficult to regularly weigh yourself and still get to the point of being overfat or overweight. Okay. Now, there's 3 rules when it comes to weigh-ins, and I call them the 3 sames. You have scale, body state, time. Use the same scale. Right? Don't use your doctor scale and then your scale at home. Right? Same thing with body state. Make it consistent. Same body state. If one morning you have clothes on when you weigh yourself, right? And the next morning, you don't have clothes on when you weigh yourself, you're going to get two different variables. It's going to impact the actual trend line that you see, and you want accurate data. And time is a factor too. Weighing yourself in the morning, you're likely going to be lighter than when you weigh yourself at night. Neither one of them is right. Just make sure you do the same thing every time. Right? My personal preference is I wake up in the morning, I use the restroom, I'm butt naked, and I step on the scale every single time. And it's generally at the same time, between 5:30 and 6 a.m. I have very consistent weigh-ins. I'm reducing the variables that are going to impact my trend line, which is going to help me make better decisions about what I need to do in my behavior to address the weight loss or the fat loss. Okay. Now, I highly recommend daily, right, and not weekly. A lot of people don't like that. They're like, you don't need to weigh yourself every single day. It's going to be discouraging. Well, I used to be a weekly guy too. 4 or 5 years ago, you might find content of me saying, hey, do it weekly, because that's kind of what we're taught in school. And then the last 4 or 5 years, actually working with real people, I realized that 30 data points is a lot better than 4 over the course of a month. I'm going to get way more accurate information if I can have 30 data points from a client than 4. And the way that you help a client and the way that we've done this successfully with guys, the way that we've mitigated the maybe discouragement that you might see in the day-to-day is, one, educating you on the fact that fluctuations are normal, which I'll get into in a second. But 2, you have to look at your weight on an average across the week. If you just weigh yourself in on Sundays and one Sunday you're the same weight as you were the previous Sunday, well, what if the Saturday before on this specific week, maybe you went out and you blew out the diet and you had just a spike and you've actually lost weight across the week, but because you only saw it on a Sunday, and you're looking at it on 4 days a month, it doesn't look like you're losing any weight. But the reality is today you just had a 4-pound swing because you had a ton of salt the day before. The only way we'd be able to see if this is an abnormal spike is if we had daily weigh-ins. So I think you're more likely to get discouraged if you only weigh yourself once a week, as opposed to weighing yourself every single day and then looking at the average weight across a week-to-week basis, right? So weigh yourself every single day as data. You don't need to make decisions on the day-to-day because fluctuations are normal, but you do it every single day to get the data, and then you make decisions based on how you're going on a week-to-week basis. Okay. Normal fluctuations are anywhere from like 1 to 3.9 pounds. Once you cross into 4 or 5 pounds, that's a pretty abnormal fluctuation. I can assume that somebody used the wrong scale, they weren't in the same body state, or they weighed themselves at the wrong time, or they had a massive blowout the day before if they swing by more than 4 pounds. But anything in that 1 to 3.9 pounds is generally a normal fluctuation that your body's going to go through, just based on your behavior, based on what you're eating, based on your activity levels, based on your sleep. Okay. So step 1, you have to get a scale and you have to weigh yourself daily, right? Now, step 2, you need to eat the proper calories and the proper protein. Calorie goal. This should be at most your basal metabolic rate, otherwise known as your BMR, per day. How you find this is you go to Google and you just type in BMR calculator, put in what it asks you, and you're going to get your BMR. That number is the maximum amount of calories that you should eat on any given day. And the way you track this is you get an app and you track it, right? You can use MyFitnessPal. It's completely free. There's plenty of other apps though, but it doesn't matter. You just need to track it, right? And I have other videos on my YouTube channel about how to track properly, how to use a scale, and you can find them on there if you go look for them. But again, you find your BMR and you do not eat more than this. Right? Your BMR is your baseline calorie needs for survival, for things like organ function and things like that. Right? Now, a lot of people have an objection to this because they're like, isn't that not enough? Isn't that risky? And my answer to that is, if you're overweight or over fat, you quite literally have a savings account of excess calories that is on your body in the form of fat. So you could very safely stay at BMR or below BMR until you're no longer over fat, because that excess fat is just excess calories. So yes, is it aggressive? Absolutely. But you can afford it. Okay. Now, I think you should keep it at your BMR or even a little bit lower than your BMR if you want to be more aggressive, until you get to a BMI of 25. Once your BMI hits 25, then you can bump your calorie intake to total daily energy expenditure, TDEE. And this is different than BMR. BMR is baseline needs for organ function and things like that. TDEE is total you're burning on a day-to-day basis. This includes your exercise. This includes your thermic effect of food. This includes non-exercise activity. Me moving my hands is burning calories. This all combined with BMR goes into TDE. So this number should be bigger than this number. And the reason you can bump it once you get to a 25 BMI is because, one, that's the BMI we recommend. Two, you are now at weight maintenance. So if you eat the same amount of calories that you are expending every single day, your weight should not change other than your natural fluctuations that we already talked about. Now, what is a BMI of 25 for you? You can look it up yourself, but I just attached a chart in here. We're looking for this green, and you can get away with maybe 1 point into the yellow. Green is healthy body weight. Yellow is overweight. Orange is obese. Red is morbidly obese. So let's say you're 5'7" or 5'8". Let's say you're 5'7". If you want to get to a 25 BMI, you need to be about 160 pounds at 5'7", right? If you were 5'8", 25 is somewhere in here. You need to be like 165-ish, between 160 and 170, right? So that's how you do this. You find your height on here, and then you slide across to wherever your weight says 25. If you're 6'4", right, we just go up on this somewhere between 200 and 210, okay? Now, the only people that get offended by BMI are people who are out of range of their typical BMI, right? But this is just the hard scientific truth. When you are over a 25 BMI, you have anywhere from a 22 to 88% chance of all-cause mortality. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this rule, but 98 to 99% of people watching this are not an anomaly. You're not. It's very hard to become one, right? And to become a BMI anomaly is a topic for a completely separate video. But if you have that question, put it in the comments. I can get into it a little bit with you as much as I can in a text format. All right. So find your BMI. You eat BMR until you get to that BMI of 25, then bump to TDEE. Now, your protein goal should be 0.8 grams per pound of your body weight at 25 BMI. So if you determine that at your height you need to be 200 pounds, you do 200 times 0.8, and that works out to 160 grams a day. And you keep that protein goal until you get to a 25 BMI. And similarly, once you get there, you change it, just like you change your calories. Once you get there, then I think you can bump to 1 gram per pound of body weight, which you may have heard this is the gold standard. I think, yes, it is the gold standard, right? But data shows us the increase in results that you get going from 0.8 to 1 is somewhat insignificant. So as long as you're hitting 0.8, you're good. But if you want to bump it to the golden rule, once you get to 25, you can. And the reason I say you wait until you get to a BMI of 25, your goal body weight, is purely on behavior change. Most people who are eating the proper amount of protein, they don't get overweight because they ate the proper amount of protein. They get overweight because they weren't eating the proper amount of protein. It's very rare that I talk to a guy that's 250, 300 pounds and has 50 to 100 pounds to lose, and he tells me he's been eating 0.8 or 1 gram per pound of protein, or per pound of his body weight in protein for years or even decades. It's very rare. So if you take that guy who's new to high protein and you put him all the way up to 1 gram of his current body weight, try taking a guy that's been eating 50 to 100 grams of protein a day and tell him to eat 250. It ain't going to go well. It ain't going to go well at all. And even if it does go well, what can happen is eventually if he starts to miss that mark, he's going to get discouraged and then he's going to quit. And emotionally, that's going to impact him negatively because to change your behavior, the emotions matter. And so if you're constantly missing your protein goal when you have 50 to 100 pounds to lose, it's very discouraging. And you're probably just going to quit the diet altogether. So we need to start small, get some wins, hit your protein minimum at 0.8 grams per pound of your body weight at a 25 BMI. Do that consistently. And once you get to a BMI of 25, you've proven that you consistently can hit that protein goal, then bump it. Okay, that's how you hit it. Now, play between these two guardrails however you would like. That's what makes this diet so sustainable. I have no affinity for how you hit that protein and how you hit that calorie limit. Right? If you want to do crazy special diets, you can, but I'm telling you right away, it's probably not going to work for you. I think you do it in a way where it's sustainable for you. So find a way to do the math to incorporate your wife's cooking. Find a way to do the math to incorporate going out to lunch with your coworkers, whatever that looks like. But as long as you're hitting protein and calories, I don't care how you do it. And we don't make our clients do it any specific way. Of course, it's ideal to get it from high quality whole foods and avoid, all the artificial sweeteners and seed oils, etc. But the biggest benefit to your health is going to be getting to a BMI of 25 and removing the 50 to 100 pounds of fat that's compressing your internal organs. That's a bigger threat to you than the artificial sweeteners and the seed oils. So just focus on the quantity game first, protein and calories, before you get all worried about the quality game. If you can do both at the same time, be my guest. But most of the time, it's not going to work, which is why you found yourself in a spot where you are watching this video and trying to figure out how to get the weight off. You've probably tried to focus on too many factors. So just focus on the fundamentals, and then we'll micro optimize later down the line once you get to a 25 BMI, or even we go further beyond that and drop your body fat percentage. But again, topic for another video. Now, step 3, last one here for you. Begin resistance training 2 to 5 times a week. How many times a week you want to do it? It depends on the split that you want to do. It depends on your availability. It's ultimately up to you. This is where I suggest hire a professional or use a professional's resources to do this. We have a free group, and the link is in the description, and we have free workout programs put together for you in there. Okay, if you want to join that. Now, it doesn't have to be us, but I recommend you get a professional to help you figure out what an actual resistance training schedule looks like for you based on your needs. Now, resistance training is just defined as making your muscles work against external force or weight. This can be achieved with your body weight, bands, kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells, medicine balls, stones, however you want to do this, right? You just need to find a way to put resistance in between a range of motion. And as long as you're working against resistance, you are resistance training. Now, that all being said, the fact that it's so flexible is what allows us to help guys do this without, spending 2 hours a day doing it. Because if they only have 30 minutes a day, well, they don't want to commute 15 minutes to a gym and 15 minutes back. Right? We can just do a 30 to 45 minute body weight workout at home. It's still resistance training. The biggest key is just the consistency over time. You are going to get better results doing something that is quote unquote scientifically suboptimal, aka body weight training, doing that for 10 years and applying these principles that I'm about to get into, as opposed to doing 6 months of something that is scientifically optimal, aka you having like a state-of-the-art NFL facility that you commute to. Right? The suboptimal scientifically thing of that body weight for 10 years is going to get you better results than 6 months of going to the state-of-the-art facility. Right? So the biggest key is consistency over time. And the good news with resistance training is there's a million different ways to do it. Now, no matter what kind of resistance training you're doing, whether you're doing body weight at home or you are going to the state-of-the-art facility, you have to prioritize the following 3 principles: form, intensity, progressive overload. First things first, form. You need to actually be doing the movements right. 1, so you don't get hurt. 2, so you actually get the results from it. My rule of thumb is if you are concerned at all about your form, you have reason to be concerned. Hire a professional. Again, could be us. You want to join that free group, send us your form. We'll break it down on a live workshop or in the chat channels, right? Or you can hire somebody at your local gym, right? Or you can find somebody else online who offers form breakdowns. But hire a professional to look at your form if you're concerned with it at all. I'm not concerned with my form, so I don't need to hire a professional to do it. But if it ever even crosses your mind, am I doing this correctly? Have a professional help you out. I, as a coach, have had other coaches help me out with form in situations where I am worried about it, right? So even I've done this, right? And you should do the same. Second is intensity. You need to be training within 3 reps of failure on all of your working sets about 80% or more of the time. Now, again, you can find content of me saying train within 3 reps of failure on all your working sets always. The reality is you do technically need some deloads here and there, but the reason I've switched this to now like 80% plus when I'm recommending it is because technically that is more correct, and it is safer to make sure that, hey, you have a deload every 4 or 5 weeks. But I personally don't schedule deloads for myself because life tends to hand you deloads, aka the holidays, aka family vacation. So this little 20% normally gets taken care of by life. But if you want to be, scientifically optimal, you could schedule deloads every 4 to 5 weeks if you want to, right? But you need to be within 3 reps of failure because that's actually where muscle hypertrophy occurs. This is why you see somebody that goes to the gym for 10 years and looks exactly the same. They have not been training intensely. They've been leaving 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 reps in the tank. And that's why they look exactly the same. They're getting a good workout. They're breaking a sweat, but they're not training. Because the way muscle grows is by breaking it down, and then it builds back via proper nutrition and sleep recovery. So you have to actually put enough tension on the muscle for it to break down, or else it won't grow. Right? So you do have to be intense, and intense is defined as within 3 reps of failure. Okay. Now, like I mentioned, to get a muscle to grow, you have to first break it down. But when it grows back, it's going to be stronger than it was. It's going to be able to handle more load than before, which is why you have to implement number 3, progressive overload. You need to add more volume, sets, reps, or weight used every week. And you do sets times reps times weight to get your total volume. So I did 3 sets of 10 reps of 50 pounds, 3 times 10 times 50. That's going to be your total volume. You want that number at the end to go up, and you can up it by increasing any one of those 3 things. Okay. And again, you should do this every week. Now, similar disclaimer to intensity. Yeah, technically you need to have deload weeks, literally deload, have a lower load so you can have recovery. Same thing though, life tends to deal this to you. If you want to schedule and be technical, you can, but generally if you're somebody that has a life outside of the gym, AKA family, business, work, it's probably going to happen naturally, but you can schedule it if you want to be perfect with this, because again, that muscle is going to be broken down by you training intensely, and it's going to come back stronger. If you want to continue to progress forward, you have to break down a muscle that is now stronger. The way you break down a muscle that is now stronger is you put more load on it, right? That's progressive overload. Now you repeat this process forever. Form, intensity, overload. Repeat it forever. End of time. I have been progressively overloading since I was 14 years old. Okay. And it's never going to stop. My training has not changed. But if you look at a picture of me from 5 years ago, I'm infinitely better than now, looking now, than I did then. If you even look at a picture of me from 2 years ago, now I look infinitely better than I did 2 years ago, even a year ago, because I've never stopped applying these. I will continue to look better and better and better year over year that I continue to do these things, because the principles do not change. So repeat this forever. Now, your bonus time saver on resistance training is design your programs to prioritize compound movements. Compound movements defined in this context as movements that require multiple joints to perform, right? AKA squat, deadlift, bench, overhead press, pull-ups, not bicep curls, not tricep pushdowns, not isolated hamstring curls. I'm not saying those things are bad. They're great. I do all of those things that I just named. But if I was looking to optimize my time and reduce the amount of time that I'm spending resistance training because I was a busy guy, then I would just prioritize the compound movements, because you go and do a pull-up, you hit your forearms, you hit your biceps, you hit your lats, you hit your rhomboids, hit your traps. You just hit 5 muscle groups. As opposed to going and doing a preacher curl, you just hit your biceps. So you get more bang for your buck when you focus on the compound movements, right? And even if you have the time, your compound movements should be the core of all of your resistance training programs anyway. And that goes for everybody across the board, from soccer mom to professional athlete. Across the board, these should be your priority anyhow, but especially if you're trying to save time. All right. So that is the 3-step system that's going to help you actually lose weight sustainably while building lean muscle. And of course, doing it, without burning out and losing your results, without crash diets, and without spending 2 hours a day in the gym. Now, that was a crash course. If you want us to help you, and by us, I mean my entire team at defaultkings.com. If you want us to help you directly, work one-on-one with you to lose 10 to 50 pounds in the next 12 weeks, just book a free fat loss assessment using the links in this description, or I said chat here because I use this in a webinar chat, or by going straight to defaultkings.com and seeing if we can help. So you'll book a quick call with either myself, with Gabe, or somebody else on our team, and we'll determine whether or not we can help you out. And if you want to actually dip your toe in somewhere else before booking an assessment, I'm going to have links to probably a newsletter, but definitely a free group in the description below where we help guys do this bi-weekly on workshops. And this piece of content was actually filmed first in a workshop where there was a live Q&A for an hour afterwards. So if you want some help directly, you can either book this free fat loss assessment or join our free group, and we can help you inside of there. But other than that, if you enjoyed the video, do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, send it to a friend that needs to lose some weight. All right. Have a good one. Appreciate you guys. See you in the next video.